At me. Hello, we're live. We're live. Welcome to Shooting the Shit.
You really need to get a handle on not carrying on your conversation when you press live.
I know, because on Be Live, when we used to do it, it takes forever, but this one goes really quick. So yeah, I do need to get a handle on it. Anyway, as I was just saying, my horse is shouting at me. She wants her tea, so let's get a wiggle on. Anyway, right, Shooting the Shit. Today we are here to talk about femininity. So femininity and the workplace is the kind of brief for our conversation. This is something that, funnily enough, we've touched on in various ways in previous episodes. So we've done a couple of episodes on clothing, dressing to feel good. We've also done what is appropriate workwear for the workplace. And obviously those episodes kind of touched on femininity, but we've never discussed it as a subject in itself. And femininity is not just the clothes that you wear. It's the tone of voice that you have. It's the way that you behave. It's the fact of, do you allow people to have a little cry in the meetings, or are you, do you run your office with an iron fist? So there's a lot of aspects to femininity that we've never touched upon before. And that's what we're going to look at today. So funnily enough, as if you're in the group, you will have seen that I put a post up today about some Googling that I was doing and what the world thinks of when we say femininity in the workplace. And I can't say I was surprised by the results, but I think there are definitely things that we need to talk about. So there's a lot to unpick in today's episode. So before we go any further, let's do introductions. So Joe with the hangover, what's your name and where do you come from? Well, shall I talk quietly to you? Poor Joe.
It's okay. I've got the volume down very low. You're fine. My name is Jo. I'm originally from Leicester, but I live in Surrey.
Marvellous. Do you want to tell everyone why you've got a hangover?
I had a very nice evening with some good friends, and the wine just kept flowing, but it was can't remember when I laughed so much or drank so much. It was wonderful.
Yes.
I actually forgot there was COVID for a bit. It was lovely. So it's worth every minute of today's suffering.
Good.
Absolutely. Yes. An evening laughing with friends is the best medicine in the world, isn't it? Teri, what's your name and where'd you come from?
My name's Teri. I'm living in Longridge currently. Well, I'm not currently in Longridge. I'm currently in my car in Manchester, but I live in Longridge.
Marvellous. Thank you very much. And Hannah, what's your name? Where'd you come from?
I'm Hannah Winehold and I am in Sheffield.
Marvellous. Hannah, you've got very green earrings there. Your earrings match my jumper.
Oh, yes.
They're very nice. Yeah.
Very nice.
Good coordinated as ever.
Hot takes.
Right. Hot takes. There we go. Earring hot takes. Okay. Right. That's enough frivolity for one episode. Let's crack on. So, first of all, the first question I would like to ask each of you, and I will go around in the same order. How feminine are you? And if you are quite feminine, how does that femininity manifest? So, Jo, are you a girly girl?
Yes and no. I don't know. Girly girl. Yes, I like girly things as you might define them. And I suppose, yes, I like lots of the trappings of being a girly girl, such as makeup, accessories, clothes and all that. So I suppose in that sense, by that definition, yes, I am.
And when you were working, did you take, because I know if everyone who's a regular listener will know that you were an editor at Mills and Boon, obviously, romance, love, you were a celebrant, these things that really matter to you. Did you very much take that femininity, and do you still very much take that femininity with you into the workplace, or do you ever kind of feel like you need to dumb it down a bit, be a bit more manly?
No, I don't feel like I need to dumb it down and be more manly, so to speak. But I always felt that I could embrace my femininity and how I express myself. And I know I talked about that a lot on the one we talked about clothing, that I use my clothing and hair and makeup to express myself. And that's part of who I am and how I present myself. So it's important to me. So I don't feel like I've had to at any point try and be more masculine in the traditional sense. I know we're talking very binaries, aren't we? Very, but
we are talking very binaries, yeah. And that's something that I'm going to unpick a little bit further down the line. Actually, is that there actually isn't this clear defined thing as we're talking about it now. We're kind of referring to the typical gender stereotypes, if you like. Do you think perhaps, Jo, that you've said before that the workplace that you're in, it was quite feminine. Most of the people you work with were women. It was very female led. Do you think that had an impact on it? Do you think that femininity was more allowed in that workspace than perhaps it would have been were you working at Canary Wharf or whatever?
I think, the nature of publishing in itself is got a different vibe to maybe jobs out in Canary Wharf. I think definitely having a more female workplace did influence that. Although I would say there was definitely women that I felt dressed in a more sort of power suity way that were higher up the chain. That I didn't gel with that. That wasn't what I thought I needed to do, but I definitely saw it in my more junior days as, that's how senior people look. I didn't choose to adopt that.
It's interesting.
I think the whole thing about
age is another
Rachel,
thing.
We've got a delay, clearly. I think the whole thing about
go on, Hannah, carry on though. Pick it up.
I think the whole thing about power suits as well, they came in the 80s. It was a style of dressing because in Britain, for the first time, there was a female prime minister, and it was this whole notion of women can be in power too. And in order to be powerful, you need to have shoulder pads, wide shoulders to emulate males. You needed to wear a suit to emulate males. You needed to wear trousers to emulate males, but you were allowed to wear heels and lipstick with that if you wanted. This whole notion of power dressing was making you more masculine. And, when we say, the fact that it's called power dressing, because what we were doing before wasn't powerful, like the whole notion of it is just so sexist. And the thing about saying, are you feminine? Yeah, I'm feminine because I'm female. So of course I'm feminine, whether I wear a fucking boiler suit and a tin hat or whether I wear a floral dress and ballet pumps, either way, that's feminine because I'm female.
Yes, this is all true.
Yeah.
Teri, you had a little bit of a rant on LinkedIn this morning,
I
didn't you, about
did.
your femininity and where you come from.
It was a good rant.
Where do you feel that you sit in this? Because you've said, you're a basic bitch, essentially, aren't you?
I am. I'm a basic bitch. I love pumpkin spice lattes. I can quote Taylor Swift till my eyes fall out. But I'm still smart and I'm strong, and it just drives me crazy. I think a lot of people, I think I said on there that they think they've seen me coming. They think they've seen me coming a mile away. And because I am quite giddy sometimes and I say silly things and I can be a bit ditzy and, I don't always present as intelligent as I am because that's just how my personality is. And that seems to make people kind of treat me stupid. I don't know. I can't explain it. Like, I went through a phase, especially in the industry that I'm in, because I am in quite a male-dominated industry. And it does sort of drive me mad sometimes that people think I'm just a secretary or that I'm just there to pass messages on to Mike and Mike does all the hard work. And when the time comes that somebody does kind of cross a line and I switch on my, well, actually, no, no more Mr. Nice Bucket kind of thing. She's gone now. Like, this is going to be, I'm going to be strong and mean to you now because you've been mean to me. And people are like really shocked and they're like, oh, where's this come from? So it's always been there. I don't have to be aggressive all the time to be treated with respect. You should treat me with respect regardless of how I present myself. And I shouldn't have to suddenly switch to being more aggressive to make you treat me in the way that I deserve to be treated. Does that make any sense? And it kind of
absolutely, that makes 100% sense. Yeah, and this is the thing; it's been underestimated, and I have this a lot because I am also, I do come across as quite ditzy, and I am quite clumsy, and I don't take any situation very seriously. So, if I'm at a networking meeting, I will be laughing and I will be joking with people, and I'll be making quips. And I think because of that, people will underestimate you. I mean, it might just be because I'm a woman. and I don't know. But they then, people are always really surprised when I talk about my job. Always a bit like, oh, fucking hell, look, she knows stuff.
Yeah, God.
Didn't
She's
just
got a
get
brain.
here by accident, you know. I do actually know how to do my job as well. I mean, we've had, Hannah, haven't we? I was saying, I think there's something in the air at the moment with the number of dickheads we've had to deal with recently. But
Yeah.
I mean, just Hannah, you've dealt with the bulk of them over the last few weeks. But again, it's that being underestimated and assuming because you are a nice person that they're going to be able to walk all over you. And then when you don't let them walk all over you, then they get nasty. Like you have betrayed some sort of trust because, hang on a minute, I thought you were going to be a pushover and now you're not. And they get really mad, don't they?
Yeah. And I think as well, the whole notion that you can't be feminine or not, I'm going to stop using this word feminine, that you can't be, soft or nice, kind in the workplace without people thinking you're a pushover. Like it's aligning typically masculine tendencies with what it takes to be successful in business. And rather than us having to adapt to become more masculine, we should be saying these are the kind of softness, kindness, empathetic capabilities that a lot of people see as feminine traits. They should be valued just as high in the business world as aggression and tenacity and bolshiness, because they are obviously as valuable. And I think the fact that people think that if you're kind, if you're nice, if you're gentle, if you're sweet, you're a pushover, it's just misogyny. It is misogyny, and there's like no other way about it.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And the thing as well,
I said to Mike earlier.
Go on, Terry, go on.
Sorry. I said to Mike earlier that I'm quite sad that I feel like since I started business, I've had to become less nice. I've had to become a bit more of an asshole because that seems to get me where I need to be quicker. And it sounds ridiculous, but I like being nice. You know, there's so many horrible things in the world. I like being nice. I like that
we should team up, Teri, because I like being an arsehole.
Yeah. There we go. But you know what I mean, though? And it's something that, with the right people, gets me really far, because I've had the right clients say, gosh, you're so patient. I'm going to come back to you again because you're really patient and you make me feel really calm and really at ease. And I feel like I can work alongside you and I'm not panicking. And your demeanor has really put me at ease. And they're the kind of clients that I go, this is why I'm like this, because that's the kind of person that I like to work with. And it's just naturally who I am. Like, I spend a lot of my time around animals and children. I'm never going to be a big, boisterous, pushy person, because you can't do that when you're dealing with people day to day without upsetting them. And I feel like I have to put that on the back burner and go in guns blazing in order to prove that I'm not a pushover.
It's really interesting though, Terry, because on the flip side, when I had my eldest, Naya, she's 9, it was the first time I'd really come across, lots of women in kind of baby groups and play groups and things like that. And I had to soften myself, and I didn't like it. So I have this kind of, it doesn't sit right with me that I have to kind of become this like nicey, oh, it's so sweet kind of person, because that's not who I am.
And you're so rubbish at it as well.
I'm fucking awful at it. It's so
whenever I see
insincere.
Hannah go into these situations, and she's always like, oh, yeah, I see her like with other mums from school or something. She's like, oh, hiya, you're all right. How's the potty training going? And I can just see like it's killing her on the inside.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're obviously quite good at it, because nobody else can tell how insincere you're being.
Except you just talked about it now for anyone
live.
All of her friends now will be like, oh my God, she hates me.
She's so fake.
I'm like, yeah, so fake. Yeah, I am so fake. But I have to be, because I'm an absolute dickhead underneath it all. But yeah, no, I think that's the beauty of being in business yourself, that you can say, I only want to work with these types of people, because they're the sorts of people that I get the most out of, and that I give them a successful campaign or whatever, because I work well with them, I gel with them, and that's a privilege that we have.
And it's a shame that I'm coming across more and more people that I think I'm going to work really well with until I tell them no. Until I'm sorry, I can't make that deadline. I've got prior commitments. Until, oh, I'm sorry, no, I can't hold that date for you without a deposit. And then all of a sudden it's, where is this coming from? We had such a great relationship and now you're being so difficult. It's like, I'm not being difficult at all. I'm enforcing my terms and conditions. I'm a businesswoman. Like, where would I be if I just didn't do that?
I wonder if men are often told that they're difficult when they enforce their terms and conditions.
Not at all. I sign off emails from Mike because it just gets things done.
And we do the same thing at Grow Traffic. We've sent Dally in when we've had a particularly arsey client who was, Hannah and I have tried to reason with him and we've not got anywhere. We're just like, just send Dally in and he gets a completely different response to what we get every single time. I do think when we're talking kind of generally about the workplace, we're in quite privileged positions as well, aren't we? Because we run our own businesses now, all four of us. But traditionally speaking, the women would have been in slightly lower, lower ranking jobs, if you like. So they would have been like the HR people, and they would have been the admin people. They would have been your first port of call, and the people at the top would have been the men. And the old thing was, they were the ones making the hard decisions, so they didn't have room to be, soft. But I mean, I've been doing a leadership course recently, which I've found really, really useful actually. And a lot of that is teaching us to listen, teaching us to not, leap in with our suggestions of how to make things better, but actually just sit back and listen to what people are telling us. And she was saying, the woman who facilitates it was saying that the first cohort was women. So she's run the course, she's done it, and everybody took a lot away from it. The first time she ran it with men, all of them have come at different points and said, this is rubbish, I don't need to do this, or, well, I don't feel this is relevant to me. And she's had to go back and have an individual conversation with each of them and say, what don't you think you're getting from this? And they've said, well, I don't like this bit. And when she's unpicked it, it's just that they've balked at that, that having to listen and having to do that self-reflection and not defend themselves and not come back with their point of view. And she said it's been really interesting seeing how differently men and women have reacted to this, exactly the same content, exactly the same leadership course. So I do. So
they've voluntarily gone on a course that they've paid for, and then they're telling the course leader that she's doing it wrong and they don't want to do it.
They don't need it. They don't need it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And she said, and it's oh man, the audacity.
But she should really let a man, just as an experiment, get a man to run the exact same course to men and see what they come back with.
Yeah.
I bet they wouldn't argue with it.
Yeah.
Or him, shall I say.
It is. I mean, so it's really interesting, isn't it? We try and put these kind of systems in place of how are we going to bring those feminine qualities in, but obviously we're dealing with generations of patriarchy, aren't we? So it's not just going to be that easy. I would like to just move us on a little bit. Time is marching on. Time is marching on.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. I did say at the top. Yeah, I did say at the top that it wasn't, we're not just talking about clothing here. We're talking about mannerisms. We're talking about even down to like accessories, your glasses and your hairband, and also the way that you will approach a situation and empathy and things like that. How are we going to reach a situation, do you think, where we're going to allow these more positive influences to come into the workplace?
I think it's a case of we're not asking for permission. Like, we are bringing these things into the workplace. Like it or lump it. You don't like it, work with somebody else then. Like, I'm not gonna ask permission to be who I am and who I've always been in my own business. Like, are you kidding me? This is my business. I'm not asking somebody else how I should be behaving here. Like, if you don't like who I am, because it's like, somebody might just not gel with me and that's fine. And there are other people who I wouldn't gel with and I wouldn't work with, but they're not going to ask me for permission to behave that way. They're just going to move on to somebody that works with them. And I think it's about boldly saying, well, this is happening now, so get over it.
I was reading a very interesting article before, as I do a little bit of research occasionally, And it was a really interesting point, actually. They were asking the question, the title of the article was, "Can I be feminine in the workplace?" And they were saying that there may be a cultural element to this that we haven't really considered. You know, as Hannah, as you were saying, in terms of sort of white Western women, we had the sort of Margaret Thatcher image in the 80s of the power dressing and what have you. And white women's clothing, attire and attitudes and stuff have gone on a sort of gentle journey in one direction since the 80s, where we have been allowed to become less kind of power dressy and a little bit more feminine. But when you look at, for example, Indian women in the workplace in India, you know, women who dress in more traditional clothing, other cultures, you know, in the Caribbean, for example, or Africa, where they have the headdresses and they have the fabulous earrings and all the rest of it. Actually, their clothing, that, you know, they have a very, very feminine style, and they've always been accepted. Now, that's not to say that they are not subject to racism, because they naturally, you know, of course, they're then subject to the inherent racism that they would. But actually, their femininity hasn't been as much in question, and they've kind of been allowed to be a little bit more feminine than otherwise. I think that's quite an interesting aspect, isn't it?
That's interesting.
I wonder if it's being allowed to be more feminine, or if it's apathy, because, you know, oh well, like the racism takes, or the xenophobia or whatever takes precedent. So it's, well, you know, that's what they do, so I'm going to focus on these people. But it's interesting though, because even, you know, femininity, if you're too feminine, you know, you're too girly, you're underestimated. I like to dress fairly masculine, although someone the other day told me that I like to dress like a Victorian school mom, which I think has pretty much hit the nail on the head for me. Hashtag goals. And I think, you know, I like collars and I like big boots, and I wear earrings, but that's probably as much feminine as I go. And I've been accused of being too masculine at work, and you know, it's what, like, you can't bloody win. You're either too feminine or you too. What do you want us to do?
And do you know what? One day to the next, I could wear something completely different as well. Like, I'm not sat here saying I'm going to wear a flowery dress and you can't stop me, because one day I might wear a power suit. And I think it's about just saying, like, just do you and let people do them, and just stop finding reasons to just dismiss them. And unfortunately, women do get that a lot more than men do. And I think 9 times out of 10, when I've had somebody come up against me, it is because of something that is inherently feminine or gentle or soft. I think if I did go in a bit more abrasive, dressed, you know, in a full-on power suit, I probably wouldn't get the same pushback that I get when I'm in a floaty dress and dolly shoes and that.
Well, I don't know, Terry, but you say that, but then, you know, there have been instances of, you know, I mean, women as women, we're damned if we do and damned if we don't, aren't we? And there have been instances where women are then condemned for trying too hard. You know, I mean, Margaret Thatcher, you know, none of us are her biggest fans on here, are we? But, you know, when she took that voice training to lower her voice, to get her to speak in a lower register so that she could be understood and be less shrill. She was really criticised for that. I mean, it essentially worked, but people were like, oh, now she's trying too hard. You know, why doesn't she just keep her handbag and all the rest of it? So there is an element of, you know, like I say, damned if we do and damned if we don't.
You can't win.
No, we can't win.
Cannot win.
When I was a teacher, I would never shout because I didn't want to appear shrill or hysterical. So I would never shout.
You can't show emotion. You can't get angry, because it's like, well, just come back and we'll talk about it when you've calmed down. Come on,
darling, you must be on your period. Calm down.
Well, this is a very good thing, because and there's 2 elements to this. So there's the kind of history of the woman as the shrew, and, you know, I mean, it was only, when was it, 2016, 17 or whatever, where that MP told the woman in Parliament to calm down, dear. You know, and
that MP was David Cameron.
I was just going to say it was David Cameron,
Prime Minister.
Yeah, it was. And you know, this kind of image of the woman as the harridan, as the shrieking, hysterical woman. Yeah. And I mean, that is a stereotype that we're always, and I'm conscious of this. And the thing about the trouble with this is, the more somebody accuses you of that, the more wound up, and you're like, no, I'm not. And then you
Yeah.
completely are, aren't you? And you're in one of those catch-22 situations that you can't win. But there's also something very classist about this as well, isn't there? There's a real, and I think particularly in the UK, there's a real class undertone with this that, you know, if you are not the composed, calm, educated, you know, woman, the aristocratic kind of dulcet tones, you know, you're just like I say, you're a housewife, you're a hussy, you're a shrew, you're a fishwife, and you're screeching and all the rest of it. So there's a lot of kind of a lot of undertones to the abuse that goes on here, aren't there?
Yeah, and it's so subtle, and we try our best to avoid it. And I think that's the sad thing. Like, we preempt this criticism by holding back natural parts of ourselves because we just know it's not worth it. It's not worth doing the things we want to do and behaving the way we want to behave, because somebody's going to have an issue with it and it's going to be manipulated so that it's all our fault anyway, and we should never have done all of these things we did because we got the man angry, and that's that. And it's like, well, so we just don't even bother. And I think it's quite sad, really.
So many occasions where I will type out an email response and then I will delete the email response. But it's just like, you know, just no response is better than the
fucking hell, Rachel.
response I was going to
Rachel, I have mopped up so many of your angry emails. If you could do that to more emails, that would be really good for me. Thanks.
yeah, but you reached the same point, to be fair. Jo, have you ever modified your behaviour or kept quiet for the sake of not appearing like a shrew?
Have I been accused of being like a shrew? I'm really struggling with that one, actually.
Have you ever cried at work? Would you ever cry at work?
What, in front of people?
Yeah.
I think I very much didn't want to be that person. I've definitely shown a lot of vulnerabilities as a senior leader and leading a team of women. I felt a huge responsibility to role model what a leader could be, because I felt like I'd had bad role models. So that did include empathy, showing a lot, using emotional intelligence a lot, you know, and having that openness and holding space. So yeah, probably in my more junior times, I'm sure there was some, you know, definitely some moments, but also I wouldn't judge anyone in my team if that happened, you know. And yeah, actually no, I think in a particular time I sat and blubbed quite openly, actually, in a couple of one-to-ones for emotional reasons. But yeah, but I feel very privileged because of the situation that I was in. It was a different energy. I'm not saying it was always perfect, but I feel proud that I feel I did bring, because we keep using the term feminine energy, my femininity to it. I embraced it, and I feel that it helped create an environment for a team of women to embrace whatever they wanted to embrace about themselves. We didn't have shrillness as such.
But that's really interesting, though, because you've consciously made that decision to create that sort of environment, and it sounds like you did it and you were really successful at it. But that was an actual conscious decision that you knew you worked with a team of women, you wanted to be a different kind of leader, and you allowed that femininity to come into it, and you allowed, you know, like you say, to show emotion and to have some emotional maturity. So I think that's really good. But just by the fact that you say you made a conscious decision to do that shows that, as you said yourself, it wasn't done to you, was it? That was not the example you were given. Were your leaders before, were they female or were they male?
Nearly all female. Yeah, I think there was definitely the more senior, usually the CEOs or the MDs tended to be male, but we did have female CEOs as well. But it was mainly, you know, women. But I think also I'd been nurtured at work in a way that I was told, you know, the soft skills that I had, as they're referred to, they liked that a lot about me. So you got my hard skills and my people skills. So I was encouraged, and I thought, well, that's a strength. So I'm going to capitalize on that strength it must be working because I keep getting promoted and they keep saying they like, so I'm just going to continue to embrace that type of leadership, that type of, you know, because that was fundamentally me, you know. I
think as well,
I needed to be different. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you think as well? So, because realistically speaking, we're perhaps the second or third generation of women that are becoming leaders. If we think about, you know, the generation up from you, so the ones that will have been leaders, who were your leaders, Jo, and, you know, who I worked with when I was at the NHS and things, they had very much come up in the 80s and 90s where they were up against men. They had to be double hard in order to get promoted and get to the positions they were. They weren't able, you know, they passed on to us the baton of being able to be female leaders, but they did not have the skills or the equipment to be feminine leaders. So in a way, it is kind of our responsibility to pick that up and say, all right, thank you. You know, you've allowed us to be leaders.
That's true.
Now let's make a feminine leader and pass that on to the next generation. Because realistically,
that is such a good point.
We've only had 30 years.
Yeah. Like we've got a space at the board table now. You know, well, in some places, obviously there's still a lot of work to go. And now I think we do need to make business more accepting to females and femininity rather than changing what it means to be female. Definitely.
Yeah. I think that's such a good point. I hadn't even considered that, but we're kind of the ones that need to be the people having these conversations and opening this up. Like I've hid at work in the bathroom before to cry because you just don't want to be seen to cry. And sometimes it's just a pure, like, that's how I express frustration. Like I can't help it. I'm a crier. I get so overwhelmed and frustrated. I cry. And then when you're trying to explain to somebody, like, these are the reasons you've made me mad, and you're explaining those reasons through tears, they're like, oh, go calm down and we'll come back and talk about it. And I'm like, no, I'm not sad. I'm angry. I'm just crying.
I think maybe we need to make it more normalized to have a shouty rant through your tears, because I cry when I'm frustrated. Or, you know, just any build-up of any emotion, like even happy or, you know, frightened or whatever, I cry. And I think maybe we need to make that more acceptable.
Yeah, I must admit, just hearing, I mean, I used to cry quite easily, but I really worked at it because I didn't like that way that you couldn't express yourself because of the snot and the tears, you know. You know, so I know that was something as well. And it maybe that might for me, maybe that was just, I don't know, an emotional maturity. You know, I definitely would, you know, cry in the loos, but I did definitely feel that I was lacking in power if in that situation I was crying. So that's something I consciously worked on to manage.
I do think as well there's something about a kind of male energy is very, I'm conscious of the time, we are going to have to wrap it up, but you know, male energy, when I've argued with men in a work setting, they've been very, very bullish, and they come at things and they just keep talking and getting louder and shouting, and in that space, you know, you can't by just keep on going and getting louder, it just escalates and escalates. So my tendency is to just be very quiet and not respond, and I'll go into my shell. And actually, what we also need to provide is space for people to then come back, because when you're like, I can't speak, I can't escalate this, so I'll go away, and then they think that's it, that's conversation over. You know, I've won, there we go, all sorted, let's never speak about this again. And actually, what you need is a space for that to, as I say, each party to calm down and then come back together and talk about it again and say, actually, that wasn't over. You just didn't enable me to speak. And I think that's quite a feminine trait. I've spoken to a lot of women who've felt that same thing. So again, it is about enabling emotion to come into it, but it's also about enabling those different types of communication and accepting that people need to be able to communicate in different ways. And we've got to provide a space for all of those to be as valid as shouting and getting caught.
And that doesn't need to be gendered. That doesn't need to be gendered. No, there's a lot of way, you know, it's not just in terms of conflict, but just the way that individuals take on information. You know, whether you're a reflector, you know, when you're in a group and you've got all the extroverts all shouting, it doesn't mean the introverts haven't got ideas. They just can't get a word in edgeways. So I think, again, it's if you're in that
Yeah,
position
I know what you
where
mean.
you've got a team,
You've got to go away and think about it and then come back.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
If you're a
I'm not
leader,
making
is creating space for all types of how individuals want to work, regardless of gender or whatever. And that was another thing I was very conscious of, because we definitely in our workplace had a different culture. It's like, who shouts loudest and puts their hands up first is the one who gets on in life. Whereas, and I could almost say I'm much more on that camp, but you know, being a really good leader who again uses emotional intelligence is recognizing that everyone needs a different type of way to be handled. So holding brainstorming or holding meetings like that is always allowing space. It's like, okay, we're going to break away from this. Let's pick this up another time. To allow those people to reflect and come back. And I think in those situations of conflict, if it is in your, you know, naturally you sort of sit back and go into yourself, you know, and you're like, oh, you think afterwards, I wish I'd said this, I wish I'd said that. There's always an opportunity. You can take control in that situation, say, you know, and stop it. Like, I don't think this is progressing anything. How about we talk about this? Let's set up a time tomorrow and just shut it down, take control, and set up a time when you're in a more emotionally strong place, or just had time to gather your thoughts, or to go and cry in the loos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I can't get my point across that's exactly, in the moment.
It's exactly the thing as well that we mentioned, you know, when we said at the beginning that I wanted to finish on, you know, we are talking about this in terms of gender, masculine and feminine. And the reason that we are talking about it in those ways is because there isn't any other language for those traits. It's a shorthand. People understand it. You know, we're talking about gender stereotypes, but there's a reason as to why those things have been seen as traditionally masculine and traditionally feminine. And when we talk about picking this baton up and allowing more femininity into the workplace, actually what we're doing there is we're looking forward to a more mixed, a more you know, non-binary kind of workplace. And it's absolutely allowing people of all different genders, all different sexualities, all different personality types, you know, that by bringing that femininity in inverted commas into the workplace, we are allowing space for all of those different types of people, and not just the alpha male, you know, your traditional 1980s stockbroker type man to dominate in the workplace, because that's our modern workplaces going forward have got to.
And I bet there's men out there, or people that don't identify as female, that are putting on this alpha sort of, and they're probably not that way either. I bet a lot of like the men or male identifying people that we speak to present themselves as really aggressive and are putting that on as well, and I bet they'd rather have a bit more sensitivity in the workplace.
Absolutely. There we go, toxic masculinity, we're back to that one.
There we go.
I am going to end it there because we've gone massively over time, so thank you to all of you. Jo, any final words?
I think I've spoken enough, haven't I? But just be yourself.
Be yourself. Perfect. That'll do. Terry, final piece of advice from you, or final thought?
Oh, final thought. Just wear what you want to wear, be what you want to be, and don't ask permission and don't apologise.
Yeah,
excellent.
Don't ask permission, don't apologise. Yeah, just to echo what those two have said, just do you and don't apologise for it.
Yeah, and you know, I agree with all of those things, and I think as well, you know, when Hannah made the point before, you know, it's fine to be feminine if you are a girly girl. It's also fine to not be feminine if you're not a girly girl, and that's all right. And if you are Hannah's friend and you're watching, she does like you, really. You're
depends
fine,
which one.
worry.
Depends who's
depends. Brilliant. Thank you very much, all of you. That was really, really good. Very shortly, if you're watching on the Facebook group, If you would like to leave us a comment, please do. We will see it and we will always respond to you. If you are watching it on YouTube, head over to the Facebook group because there you can actually join in the conversation. And if you are listening on the podcast, please tell everybody, like and subscribe, and also leave us a comment. Again, we will still read it, and we are always looking at ways to improve. So they genuinely do help us get better because we're still very new to all this podcasting lark. We will be back in 2 weeks. Absolutely no idea what the hell we're talking about. But in the meantime, come and find us on Facebook and chat. That's it. We have to wave now, girls. Ready?
Bye. Bye.
Bye.